Hello student, this is SRN. Welcome to my channel. Today I will teach you geography. In the grade 10 standard, I will choose the topic resources and development. First of all, let us know more about the resources. What do you mean by resources? Anything that can be satisfy the human desire, that is resource. Resources are very important for the nation development. So country progress depends on the availability of the resources. Now, moving to the content, what is the definition of resources? Let us know more about the definition. Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provide it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable can be termed as a resource. So resources economically, culturally, technologically, and also that can be available in our surroundings. Okay. Next, so the resources can be utilized effectively with the help of the technology and also with the help of the institution. We may understand easily with the help of this diagram. Here is a picture related to the nature, that is physical environment, and also the technology, the tools and the techniques or the methodology what we are using, and the institutions or the organizations or the government policies. So without nature, without technology, without institution, we human beings cannot be succeed. So man is always mutually depends on the availability of the nature, technology, and institution. These are interrelated. We can also call as mutually dependent relationship with each other. Human beings interact with nature through the technology and create institutions to accelerate their economic development. Okay, student, we have many types of classification of the resources. Resources are grouped into many. Now, the resources are called as natural resource and human resource. The resources which are available naturally, physically in our surrounding, that is natural resources. So, human resource, that is nothing but knowledge, ability, education, technology, science and technology, the skill that is related to the human resource. Now, natural resources also classified into two groups. One is renewable resource and non-renewable resource. They are continuous or the flow resource and also biological resources. Okay, for example, natural vegetation and wildlife, they are the continuous or the flow of natural resources. Okay, students, now let us move to the next content, that is the resources on the basis of the origin. We have two kinds of resources on the basis of the origin. There are biotic resources and abiotic resources. Children, it is very simple to understand. Biotic, that is living things. Human, that is plant life, animal life, they are the examples, or obtained from the biosphere. Yeah, they have life. Example, human beings, flora, fauna, fisheries, livestock. So these are the examples related to the biotic resources. What are the examples of the abiotic resources? Abiotic, composed of non-living things. Example, rocks, metals, and many more. You may identify some important examples here. Soil, light, water, air, humidity, and temperature. Okay, student, we have one more classification of the resources. There are renewable resource and non-renewable resources. Resources, when we are using more and more time, keep on using again and again, it won't be exhaustible. They are renewable resources. You can use many times. For example, solar energy, wind energy. Okay, then forest, water resource, they are the renewable resources. What do you mean by non-renewable resources? Once you are used, you cannot be used again and again. It will be exhausted. For example, mineral, coal, petroleum, and many more. So you can identify some important object which is non-renewable resources. Okay, student. On the basis of the ownership, we have another classification of the resources. They are individual resources, community resources, national resources, and international resources. Let me tell you what you mean by individual resources. Individual resources, that is, a person or community is the owner of the resource. For example, you are the owner of the property, you are the owner of the car, you are the owner of the bike. So that is the property belongs to you and your community. So it is the resources considered as the individual resources. Okay, next, community resources. That group of people or the particular community going to be utilize the resources. For example, burial grounds. That particular community people can be utilize the burial grounds. For example, Christianity. There is a burial ground only reserved for the community of the Christianity. Like that. One more example, park, public park. That locality, that particular community people can be utilize the public park, open well, or playground, or burial ground. So they are the examples of community resources. Then one more classification, national resources. So that is the resources belongs to all the citizens of the country. That is the national resources. For example, in India, Indian Post, Indian Railway, they are comes under national resources. It is the resources belongs to each and every citizen of our country. Then one more, international resources. So for all the countries, that is the resources belongs to. So if they wanted to utilize the resources, they must be get the prior permission from the international agencies or international organization. Beyond the 200 nautical miles, which are comes under the exclusive economic zone, they are going to get the benefits from the international agencies or organization, which is considered as international resources. On the basis of the ownership, we can be divided into four divisions. And one more classification, that is, on the basis of the status of the development, we have four classification of the resources. Anyhow, we have the status of the development, whether the resources are available or not. What is the quality and the quantity? That can be identified easily. So there are potential resource, stock resource, developed resource, reserved resource. What do you mean by potential resource? Surveyed, mapping can be done. Quality and quantitative resources can be identified. So, and whenever we want, we can be utilized. Right now we are using, but in future, if we want, we can use more and more. We have the potentiality. And developed resource, we are using more and more resources for the nation development with the help of the science and technology, with the help of the government permission. So with the help of the human resource, we are utilizing more and more. We have enough developed resource. And one more, we have stock and reserve resource, like forest reserve. We have stock. We have enough reservation. For example, in Karnataka, Chikkamangaluru, Kuduremuka, Kemmannugundi, we have enough iron ore minerals. We have enough resources. In future, if we needed, we can be extract more and more. We have stock and reserve resources. Okay, students, now just I told you clearly about the classification of the resources. Let me glance once again on the basis of the origin, biotic and abiotic. On the basis of the ownership, individual resource, community resource, national resource, international resource. On the basis of the exhaustibility, we have another classification, renewable resource and non-renewable resource. And children, one more classification, on the basis of the status of the development, we can also divide the resources into potential resource, developed resource, stock resource and reserve resource. Okay children, these are the classification of the resources, very important for upcoming examination from the CBSE board. Okay, now let us move to the content. What do you mean by development of the resources? Sir, we have enough resources, there is no doubt. What do you mean by development of the resource? We have the resources for the nation development. It is the process of the developing the resources in order to make them useful for satisfying human needs. Human needs are unlimited. So, with unlimited wants, how can we utilize the resources with limited? Limited resources and unlimited human needs. Unlimited human wants with limited resources. So, this is the strategy how we are going to utilize the resources for the development. Okay, students, when we are using more and more resources, we may face the problem. When we are exploiting the resources, indiscriminately using more and more resources, we will face the challenges and the difficulties of the problem. What type of problems will be there? Come to the point. Depletion of the resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals. Only few people, they will be satisfied. So the resources will become the greedy of the person. Accumulation of the resources in few hands. Only the few people will be accumulated. So the which can in turn divided the society into two segments, that is haves and have-nots. The resources are more, the people are utilizing more, they will become the rich. The resources are very less, they don't know how to utilize the resources, they will become the poor. So haves and have not, rich and poor, these kinds of discriminations can be taken place with the help of the indiscriminating using the resources. And one more, indiscrimination of the exploitation of the resources has led to the global ecological crisis. Not only for me, either for individual or for community or for national. So for the entire world, all the countries in the global level, we will face the challenges and the difficulties or the problems. Do you know how? Through the global warming, through ozone layer depletion and environmental pollution and land degradation. Either land degradation or soil pollution, environmental pollution, these are the problems for the entire world. So we must be understand these problems must be eradicated. These problems must be avoided. Okay, student. What do you mean by sustainable development? It is very interesting. Resources are there. We have many types of classification of the resources. Okay. How we are going to utilize the resources? Okay. But here is the content. What do you mean by sustainable development? You can use the resources not only utilizing the resources, utilize the resources effectively, judiciously, without wasting, without damaging, without harmful to any living beings. Use, right now, use, but simultaneously, you should be preserved for our future generations. You should keep for our future generation. Not only utilizing the resources now, but also conserve the resources for our future generation. This is nothing but sustainable development. It is in Kannada, that is ಸುಸ್ಥಿರ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ. ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯ ನೆಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲಗಳನ್ನು ಯಥೇಚ್ಛವಾಗಿ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು, ಪರಿಣಾಮಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು, ಸೂಕ್ತವಾದ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು, ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನ್ಯಾಯಯುತವಾಗಿ ಬಳಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಮುಂದಿನ ಜನರೇಷನ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಸಂರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ sustainable development, economic development which does not damage the environment and at the same time, takes care of the needs of the future generations. Okay, student. Now, why the sustainable development is important? Sustainable development, you know that. What do you mean by sustainable development? Utilizing the resources and also simultaneously keep for our future generation. Okay. Why it is important? Sustainable development is very, very important. You know why? Because many of the resources are non-renewable and they are exhaustible. If you are keep on using, they will be exhaustible. Over exploitation of these resources, will affect the needs of our future generations. So we must be preserve the resources for our future generation for the sustainable development purpose. Next, environment pollution has become a major threat to the survival of human being. Not only one country or the two or more. So almost all the global level world environmental pollutions can be stopped by the judicious use of resources. Okay, student, now let us know more about resource planning. Students, you know what you mean by resource? What is the definition of the resource? What are the classification of the resource? What do you mean by sustainable development? Then why do we need sustainable development resources in India? You know that. Now there is another question, resource planning. What is the resource planning? It is very simple. I will tell you, that is a technique or the skill, a strategy to utilize the resources in proper way. So strategy or the skill or the technique, proper utilization of the resources. Human population, the population is more. Due to overpopulation with limited resources, it is highly difficult task to fulfill the needs of the human being. So for the country development, for the welfare of all the people of the country, we must be utilize the resources in planning way. That is, resource planning is very, very essential in India. Students, there are 3 stages in the resource planning. We can be use the plan, that is resource plan for the development of the nation. Okay. There are 3 stages in the resource planning. First, identify the resources. What kind of resource? Is it mineral resource or water resource or human resource or the raw materials or the ready-made goods? You can identify the resources where actually available. Mapping, surveying can be taken place. Okay, surveying, mapping and the measurement of the qualities and the quantities of the resources are the important activities undertaken in this stage. The first stage of the resource planning is identification and listing the resources. Actually, where the resources are identified. Step number 2, planning for exploitation. You know where actually resources are available. Then how you are going to utilize that? that is exploitation of the resources, bringing them. Then how you are going to utilize the resources with exploitation, that is develop a planning structure with suitable technology, skill, institutional setup. We have the agenda, the plan to know more about for the extraction of the exploitation of the resources. Then step number 3 is match the resource development plans for the national development plan. Actually, what is the total population of the country? What is the total available of the resources, quality and quantity? Then at present, what type of resources planning we have, we must be match the resource plan for the overall development of the nation. For the nation development, we must be planned, available, and what type of achievement or the success can be taken place. We must be matched with that. So there are 3 stages for the upcoming examination. It is keep on asking every year. Try to keep remember what are the steps or the stages which are involved in resource planning. Okay, student, one more content I will choose you, that is importance of resource planning. Resource planning is very, very important. Why? Because it is necessary for the balanced development of India. Some countries are developed, some countries are developing, some are underdeveloped. For the balanced development, we must be plan the resource. So resource planning is essential for maintaining the balanced development in India. Some regions of India are very rich in certain resources, some are very poor in some other resources. See, some states are very rich in mineral, some states are very lacking behind in the mineral. Some states are very rich in forest, some are very poor in the forest. Some states are very rich in water resources, but some states are very poor in that. So, some states are rich and some are very poor. Example, Rajasthan, it is very poor in water resource, but very rich in solar and wind energy. Students, it is very interesting and very important question. Rajasthan is very poor in the water resource, but rich in solar and wind energy. Keep remember. Then some regions are self-sufficient while other regions are very poor. Some states are very rich. They won't depend on others. But some states are there, no? They are always depending on other state. So some rich are the poor country, poor state, many resources. But Madhya Pradesh is very rich in many resources, but very poor in Ladakh, very poor resources. Wastage of resources can be avoided by planning. So if you are planning in such a way, if you are using the resource planning, wastage can be stopped. Environmental pollution can be stopped. Environmental pollutions can be stopped through the resource planning. Over exploitation of resources can be avoided. So these are the importance of resource planning. Okay, students, resource conservation. What do you mean by resource conservation? That is preventing the resources, saving the resources, protecting the resources, preserving the resources, conservation of resources. That is utilizing the resources simultaneously, preserving for our future generation. Planned use of resources in order to meet the present needs and so store a part of the future generation is called sustainable resources as well as resource conservation. It is very, very necessary, Why it is very necessary? Because many resources are non-renewable resource, they are exhaustible. If we conserve them, we can use them for a longer period of time. If you are going to conserve the resource, we can use for a longer time. Accumulation of resources with a few hands, which in turn divide the society into two haves and have-nots, that is rich and poor. Conservation of resources helps us to reduce the wastage, and it will help in economic progress, and resource conservation helps us to protect the environment. Okay children, you should remember, for the resource conservation purpose, in the international level there is an organization. They are organized the meeting in the Brazil country. More than 100 nations had who are participated at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil country in the June 1992. They are discussed about the Agenda 21, not only to control the environment pollution, ozone layer depletion, and also ecological balance. If some countries are facing the challenges like poverty, unemployment, the other country must be support. So the Agenda 21 can be taken place. It was in the year 1992 at Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. There is a question. Write a short note on Agenda 21, or else, student, what is the object, the prime object of the Agenda 21 or Earth Summit or International Earth Summit? That is Sustainable Development Achievement. To achieve the sustainable development, the most important object is to achieve the sustainable development. They are organized in the Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, which is known as International Earth Summit. Okay, student. Now, what Gandhiji given the quotation about the resources? Mahatma Gandhiji, he quoted that there is enough for everybody's need, but and not for anybody's greed. So who quoted this? This is said by Mahatma Gandhiji. You should be underline this. According to Gandhiji, there is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. Greedy and selfish individuals and the exploitative nature of modern technology are the root cause for the resource depletion, according to Gandhiji. He was against mass production and wanted to replace it with production by masses. And you should remember, student, E.C. Chumacher, he quoted a book. There is a small is beautiful. You should remember, small is beautiful. The book Small is Beautiful, written by E.C. Chumacher. He was a Gandhiji follower, E.C. Chumacher, and expressed about the natural resources and the conservation of resources. Try to keep remember, E.C. Chumacher written the book Small is Beautiful. He was the Gandhian follower, Gandhian philosopher. Okay. Thank you.